There are 4,218 PlayStation 2 games, and I've got to beat every single one of them. I've got to own the game because I'm playing on the original hardware, but at the end of each video, you have a chance to guess what the next game is going to be. Do you think I can do this before I die of old age? I hope so. Welcome to Super Monkey Ball Adventure, the odd one out in the Monkey Ball series, because if anyone's heard of Monkey Ball before, most likely it'll be this. That's right, 60-second long puzzles where you control the tilt of the world, which controls where the monkey and the ball goes. You have to get from the start to this goal at the end, and it doesn't matter how you do it. Now, these puzzles are fun and challenging, but Super Monkey Ball Adventure kicks it up a notch with the adventure at the very end. Because that's right, this is now an adventure game, full of worlds with characters, quests, dialogue. Now, the puzzles are still present in this game. The thing is that you now only do them to open doors every so often. So this is completely an adventure-based game with a few puzzles strewn about. For the first bit, my wife joined me as this was the game that her and her siblings chose for me to play because they loved this game when they were younger and wanted to see me beat it. Now, this game does include multiplayer, but it does not count towards any kind of progress, nor does buying anything in the shop, as it's all due to multiplayer. So, single player, hitting the end, and there aren't really credits so much that it tells you you've beaten a certain percentage of the game, and that's it. Our story starts with us choosing a character out of 4. Gon Gon, Ai, Mimi, and Baby. They don't really differ in any way other than looks, so don't worry about who you choose, just choose who you'd like to be. They're having a barbecue, barbecuing bananas, and we see this glider with 2 people in it flying above us, going out of control. We decide, hey, maybe it's time to go figure out what this is and stop our friggin' barbecue. Now, we're dropped right into the world with no explanation as what else we're supposed to do or exactly where we're supposed to go, just that we're supposed to go check out this glider. And as we start moving around, you see that we have an option enabled called Tilt Mode. I would recommend not doing this. Tilt Mode makes it the world tilt around you as if it is like the puzzles. However, this is kind of jarring, and unless this is really interesting to you, I would turn it off and not worry about it. You can see in the bottom right of the screen, you have a radar with little arrows that point towards different monkeys that give you quests. You also have 2 other options to show up on the screen if you press the square button. The number of bananas you have, and the percentage of the island you are on being completed. Each island must be completed 60% or more to continue on with the story. The bananas are there simply to collect and sometimes to spend on multiplayer levels and for a quest in each area that will let you donate bananas so that you can get some extra percentage done without doing a difficult quest. One of the first monkeys we talk to is this old monkey here who explains to us the monkeys who crash landed here need our help, and we have to help them so that we can bring love back to the kingdom. This guy we talk to has our first actual quest, or any one of the monkeys can have a quest for you. The problem is that they do not have a quest journal or log to show you what quest you've accepted. You can only accept 1 quest at a time, and underneath your radar, it shows the quest dialogue slowly scroll past, and that's how you know you've gotten that quest. Now, this quest just has us running into monkeys with top hats to find this guy's daughter underneath one of them. So it's pretty simple. You can use your minimap to see little orange dots and arrows to show you where some of the quest objectives are, and once we find all of the monkeys with top hats, the last one we hit has his daughter underneath. Next, we do a little exploring and find this guy whose quest is to turn this tiny turnstile around in a circle until this key in the middle moves up, 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 and then eventually moves all the way down, meaning that you've unlocked whatever it is you're supposed to unlock. The issue is, this is actually a loading screen. For the PS2 version of this game, loading means you have to actively turn these things or do one of many other things. Now, the screen above you can see a full loading of an area. This is 36 seconds of me running around in a circle loading the next area. These are excruciating and I hate them, and I wish they were just regular loading screens like the GameCube version. Our next quest has us collecting bees from these different beehives all around the level, where you use flowers to bounce yourself up and down, smashing into the beehives, gathering them up, and slowly bringing them back to the apiary. Now, you'd think these flowers would be more abundant in each of the stages, but they're not. There are so many different mechanics, and this one is fun and well put together, so I like this one. You can see in the chat that some people are surprised how quickly we're moving through some of these quests because this game is hard, and it's only going to get harder. Believe it. Seriously, it's fucking hard. The next quest is one you'll see across all the different islands. This guy wants to take a picture and he wants you in it. So you've got to get to a specific point in the level so he can take the picture. You have 30 seconds to get there, and this one is easy, but the ones after are not. So just get used to trying your best to figure out where this is in 30 seconds. As I said before, there is a multiplayer section, and a monkey will sell you things for bananas for the multiplayer. It's not important for us, so I will never buy them, but they are here in case you want to play them. The next quest we get is this guy with a balloon who doesn't remember who he needs to deliver it to, so he asks you to find him. It's one of the characters you've done a quest for earlier. However, their position has changed, so you must go through the level until you find them. Obviously, using your minimap with the icons will be helpful, but it still can be difficult. In the pause menu, you get a chance to see the map of the area you are in. Now let me explain this so you understand how bad this map really is. Yes, you can see kind of what the area looks like. It's an approximation. It reminds me of Grand Theft Auto 3's map in the instruction manual, where you can't really tell where you are if you look at it in relation to the game, but maybe it's helpful. This one does show how many monkeys are in the level, if they have a quest for you, and where exactly they are, even though it's not readily apparent. And it's only for this area. You cannot look at any other area until you are in the area, and these two things up here are different areas. Once you go to them, you can then see the map for that area, but only when you're there. Moving toward the next area, we see these pedestals on the ground glowing, and these are the puzzles, and the door behind those puzzles are what we are unlocking by beating at least all of them but one. One can be left, but that is it. The first puzzle we pick is called Cascade, where the platforms are staggered and angled straight down, and the goal is straight below them. This one we just kind of throw ourselves at it, and it happens quickly. The next puzzle is just a bunch of hills where you must keep your momentum up so that you can get over the next hill, otherwise it's pretty straightforward. The next puzzle is very, very simple. In fact, just kind of going forward gets you into the goal. I believe this one is just there for you to collect some of the bananas if you were going to 100% the game. We decided to do the last puzzle because they're pretty fun, and this one just has a few moving platforms, nothing too crazy. It's easy to set them up and go right through to the goal. There are enemies in the game, but they are very few in number. They're called naysayers, and you've pretty much just got to bump into their stomachs, hit them with one of your special abilities later once we get them, and that's it. They don't really take any life or stop you from playing the game, so much as that they're just annoying. Past the store, we finally meet the king of Jungle Island, who tells us that the two people who dropped in here on the glider are the prince and princess of two rival kingdoms, both who, of course, hate each other and say there'll be terrible consequences if our children aren't returned. So that is actually our quest, is to get them together and return them back to their kingdoms. At least for now, that is. This isn't an actual quest, just kind of an overview of what you gotta do, so we move on to the next area. This guy wants us to wake up a lot of the monkeys who are sleeping in trees by using a cannon, firing yourself out and hitting some gongs. You've got to aim a little bit higher than you think because the cannon arcs your character, but it's not too bad. Once you hit a gong, it gets you to another cannon and you continue on until you hit the last one. This area also has a door to open with some puzzles, so we decide to do that next since they are pretty exciting to do. The first puzzle is pretty simple, some narrow walkways that you go across. As long as you take it easy, it's pretty easy to get to the end. This next one's pretty cool. These platforms are moving just a little offset from each other, and you kind of got to figure out when to move to the next one and when not to move. The next puzzle is also a narrow set of walkways, except this one has many different ways to go, so you can kind of pick and choose which way you like best. I decided to skip the last puzzle, and I move forward to find this monkey with a TV around his head, probably a space monkey, but he's here to teach us how to use special abilities. When you press the X button anywhere in the world, you do something called a chant. There are 4 different chants you can do, and you press each one in a set of 3, and that actually activates your special ability. The first chant we learn is a boxing glove, with which we punch the shit out of things. Oh! Wham! Now that we've learned the punching glove, we can actually go back to the first area we were in and accept a quest from this guy, with which we have to use the punching glove. We travel around the area looking for these balls with bullseyes to punch at the plants that hurt them. Once you punch them 3 times, they're gone. Now that we have the boxing glove, we can break some rocks to this next area, which has a new mechanic, falling through these rings and flying. Now this wasn't as relevant as before, but in the puzzles, you can do something called falling out. When you fall off the edge of the stage, you kind of die or get reset. This now starts to happen from this point on a lot more often, and will do one of 2 things, either kick you out of a quest or just stop you from getting to the next part of an area, even if you're not in a quest. That's right, falling out can stop you from just walking forward, and it's really frustrating sometimes when all you're trying to do is get to the next area or quest, and you can't even get there because you keep falling out. The balloon you saw us carrying in the last clip is the quest that we're actually on right now, and we bring it to this guy because apparently it's got his lunch, or is his lunch. I'm not really sure, but he's going to probably eat the balloon and it's weird. It's a pretty simple quest, just fly over here and give it to him. Past this naysayer that you must punch in the stomach because we're so nice, we find some puzzles with a door. The first puzzle are slightly narrow ramps leading down with sometimes a 90-degree turn. Otherwise, as long as you just take it slow, you can make it down pretty quickly. The next puzzle is also a straightaway. As long as you keep your momentum up, you can make it pretty easily. Although, not always. I got you. I got you. The next puzzle has the ground twisting and warping all underneath you, and you've got to take it slow, otherwise you just sling yourself right off. It is pretty difficult, but once you get there, you get there. Because we're the main characters in this world, we get another picture taken of us, where we have to jump along these flowers up this tower to get there. It's really not too hard. This monkey here cares a lot about the chicks in eggs hanging out over the open water somehow. I'm not sure how. But you've got to launch yourself through a ring and fly around to pick them up. Anytime you pick them up, you have to take them back to their nest, which is out in the middle of the water as well. All you have to do is fly near it, but it's not apparent that's what you need to do. You don't have to land in the nest, just near it. And once you do this, you can land on the ground anywhere, and the quest will be finished. We finally reached 60% or above for this quest from the king to be activated. We go talk to him and he says, hey, the prince and princess that landed here are trying to hide so they don't get caught and get sent back home. So you've got to pick from these people which one you think the prince and princess are. Now, I don't know exactly how you're supposed to tell. Apparently there's a way, but the game just gets bored with us not knowing what to do and gives it to us. Once we do this, the king says, hey, you've got to take them back now. But the prince and princess say, everyone in each of the kingdoms thinks the rival kingdom are actually monsters and not monkeys. So this is why we're fighting. And if we go back, we will be forced to be apart. Obviously, that's kind of a crappy thing to deal with, but the king doesn't know what to do. So the Super Monkey Ball team says, hey, we'll go to all the kingdoms, reunite them, and get everyone invited to the wedding, and we'll have a wedding here for them. And the king says, okay, fine, do it. So we've got our quest. The space monkey comes back to teach us another chant, although he is not marked on the map, so I don't know how we were supposed to know he was here. But he teaches us the chant to teleport to the other monkey kingdoms. I first choose to go to Zootopia. You can either go there or to Moonhaven. Doesn't matter which one you go to. You'll have to go to the other one to finish both of them, since you need both of the special moves from those stages. But Zootopia has this cat who is a robot made by this older couple running a theme park, but he has gone crazy, and for some reason, everybody is stuck in the theme park having fun. We must stop him, but this is where the difficulty ramps up to such a degree that I need to cry myself to sleep at night. First, I walk over and grab the Invisible special ability, which is only used a very few times in the game and is not that helpful anyway, so as I travel through the area, I notice how confusing this place is laid out, and the map is no help. There's lots of small walkways, there's a few places you can fall out, and I don't know which way I need to go to leave the level or even find some of the quests. Some of the quest objectives are above and below you. It's so confusing, and I really don't know why they did it this way. My first quest is the obligatory take a picture, and we do it pretty quickly because it's not that hard, not that far away, and can be seen from where you get the quest. Our next quest takes us into this circus tent where people are riding around in bumper cars. All we have to do is equip the boxing glove and smash them outside of the actual area they are driving in to save them. I move to the next area and see the monkey who teaches you chants again, and he teaches me how to use Sticky Ball, which can both pick things up off the ground and help you climb up things that are glowing yellow. Our next quest is a pretty difficult one. We talk to this woman who says she brought her class here to experience the theme park, but they've been stuck here for 3 weeks, and they are now floating on balloons out over the open water near the roller coaster, which sucks for them. But now we've got to shoot ourselves out of a cannon and fly around the area, hitting the balloons to knock the students off. The problem? Both the track and the water can screw you over. If you land on the track at any point in time, you're done with the quest. If you land on the water, you're done with the quest. You've got to restart it. So you've got to learn where they are, get them, and then land on the ground before the quest is over. I find the puzzle door and decide it's time to do puzzles. However, this time you have to do at least 5 of the 6 puzzles to progress. The first puzzle is a bunch of squares and rectangles connected at the corners. It's a little difficult to get over them, but as long as you move quick enough and just precise enough, you can make it in the time. Fun Run is a very difficult puzzle. You've got a very long half cylinder that gets narrower as you go along. These cones stop you from going straight down because as you get near the end, the cones get closer and closer, meaning that you have to slow down and get out of the way of the cones. And when you get to the very end, you almost have to be exact in the middle or you will just fall off the side. So you have to very slowly tap the analog stick to keep yourself on at the very end and just move slow. So move fast at first and then move slow at the end. The next puzzle has some walkways connected to 3 different half cylinders that are a little difficult to traverse, but it didn't take me too long to get used to them since they don't change, they just stay the same each one. This next one you must use your minimap because the whole level is spinning in a circle, and the direction that it is spinning will make your character face the opposite way, which means you can't see in front of you. You'll fall off very easily. Also, you need to make sure you know where the goal is. As you find it, you need to slow down and hope that the goal opens, and then go inside of it as it's going. The last puzzle is a series of sloped walkways that are a little difficult at first, but once you realize which way you need to tilt the analog stick, it's pretty simple and you just need to keep up your speed. Once I'm done with the puzzles, I figure out the only way to get to this next quest is to do this little maneuver, or at least I think that's the only way to get to it, and it's the stupid pictures again. This one's difficult because you must go along the roller coaster to find a point to drop off. Once you do, you still have to wait for the bobbing platforms in the water to line up perfectly so you can stand here, and it's real close. I decide to head back to the other area and do this quest now that I have the sticky ball chant. All he wants us to do is use the chant and pick up a bunch of bananas off the ground, then return them back to him where they get sucked up off of you into this vacuum. It's really simple. You can see on the minimap where all the bananas are. Back in the first area, this guy wants us to help his friends who are stuck in the mascot helmets because they've been stuck in there for 3 days. All he wants us to do is roll into them until their helmets fall off. Once we do that, quest is done. The monkey next to him wants us to help his friends who are stuck in the dunk take section of the park, which is right inside of this building. You have to use the Invisiball to sneak past this robot. As you do that, you must then snake your way through all of these different areas to reach the monkeys at the very top. If you bump into anything too long, you get revealed from your Invisiball and the robot can see you. You can't do that or you get completely sent back to the beginning. Once you get up to the top, when you walk into these planks to push them down so that the monkeys can come off, you have to touch it very, very lightly. Otherwise, you get revealed. So this one was difficult to figure out the first time. It just took several tries before I realized what I had to do. This next quest honestly blows, man. You've got to collect 8 different balloons for this monkey right here. The only caveat is that you must bring them back one at a time to him and hand them off. You don't have to press a button. You just walk up to him and hand them off to him. However, these 8 balloons are hidden around this area of the level, and they are all in areas where you must either go down a weird path that you wouldn't normally take or launch yourself off of one of many kind of ramps on the sides of the different walls. And you don't actually know exactly which one you're supposed to do until you start trying and go, okay, I think the only way to do this is to gain speed and ramp up here. If you fall out, you have to start the quest over. If you walk into a loading zone, it will start the quest over. You have to start over. So please. Heading back to the roller coaster, I tried this quest which blows. There is a roller coaster going across the tracks and the passengers have been stuck on there for weeks. And you need to get them off. You have to follow behind the roller coaster as fast as you can and just kind of touch the back car and it will fly off. You've got to do this for every car. My God, it takes forever because you can just fling yourself off so easily. The next quest has us go back to the roller coaster. However, there's nothing on the roller coaster except a remote control ball that looks kind of like you. All you have to do is keep up with it and go across the track. You don't have to fling yourself off or go super fast. Just get there eventually and you'll win. At this point, I've reached 55% of the level done and I can't really do much more because I need to go to Moonhaven to get a couple things before I continue. However, Moonhaven sucks entirely. The entire place is suspended in the air and fallouts are constant. So let's just see what happens. But first, I find some puzzles, and by God, I will do the puzzles before I do any of this crap level. The first puzzle I actually do very quickly on accident, so I'm not really sure how to set this one up. I just kind of threw myself at it and hit the goal.
Boy, look at that.
Puzzle number 2 blows, dude. This one has the entire level spinning to the right. All of the floors are flat and all the lines are straight. The issue comes when every time you change direction, it alters how the ball acts because the whole level's spinning. So after a little while, you just kind of have to get used to it. I mean, this took quite some time. I'm just going to be honest with you. Things don't get much easier because this one has a bunch of straight lines as well. At least the level's not spinning around in a circle. But these little things are trying to push you off the side of the level, and their pattern seems random. I'm not sure what's going on, so I just eventually force my way through. The next puzzle is really a test of patience. As these platforms snake through the level, you need to follow them slowly because otherwise you'll be flung off and you can't really reach the next one. So you just gotta be patient. We reach this foreman who is the main guy of this area, and he says, well, I'll go to the wedding, but we don't have enough people to cover my shift. So if you can get some people to cover my shift here, I'll go. Moving on, we meet the guy who teaches us a chant, and this time he teaches us how to get bigger. Literally, you hold the X button down and you grow in size until you hit a breakpoint. Then you just can hold it or let it go, whatever you want to do. Our first quest is to turn these levers on by running into a set of 3, which keeps them turned on, and then we go do this with 3 other sets, and they're all placed oddly, but it's not terrible. The second quest is actually pretty easy as well. You just turn into Sticky Ball and pick up these bananas like you did in the last area. They're placed in pretty easily accessible spots, so it's never too difficult. I accept a photograph quest as I find myself near a cannon that takes me to the next part of this level, and here is where things start to get a little difficult. The first quest in this area is easy enough, as it does not include us falling out of the level. All we have to do is bounce from these different pistons to a different piston that's not depressed all the way to save these monkeys in the background from these tubes. Next, we get a unique use for the sticky ball as we pick up these green leaves off the ground and then find ourselves in a bowl with 4 different holes. As long as you roll across those holes, the leaves will get stuck in them because you're trying to stop the flow of air through those holes. That's the whole point of the quest. And it's pretty easy, but again, this is just the very first part of this area. The last quest in this spot deals with us falling out quite often as we hit these buttons and go across these moving platforms. They're very difficult to balance on and you'll find yourself dying very, very quickly. This is the loading screen of this area. It's much, much easier holding X and just pushing a direction with the analog stick, but dude, the loading in this game fucking sucks. Before we enter hell, or really I mean the next area, we get one more chant from this dude, and it's wood ball. That's right, scraps of Hobby Lobby wood taped to your dude so you can be on fire. It would have been a cool mechanic if it didn't involve the most ball-busting quest I've ever fucking done in one of these types of games. This is the area with the shitty quests. Look at this. I just want you to take a quick look. This entire spot is the area you are going to. You can fall here, you can fall here, you can fall here. You can fall the entirety of what you're doing. And this section is literally a fucking puzzle, man. It's like going through and there's fans and there's moving platforms and it's not part of a quest. It's not part of a quest. It's just do this so you can get to the quest. And then once you get to the quest, you still got to deal with those areas. And honestly, whenever you fall out, which happens constantly, you never know where you're going to respawn. It's like the game just doesn't know what to do with you. It's like, where were you last? I don't know. I'll just put you here. And usually it's not helpful. So I'm going to start with the fucking puzzles. Pitch and putt is actually pretty fun because it's just, you just got to launch yourself off of these platforms and then somehow either stop or propel yourself like I do here right to the goal. All right. The next one also has a spinning level, but I get really lucky, and when I land onto the spinning part, I see where the goal is, and for some reason I'm able to control the monkey pretty quickly right into the goal, which really honestly isn't that far in, it's just short. The third puzzle has just a bunch of ramps that slowly shrink and get narrower and narrower to the goal, and this one honestly only took me about 2 or 3 tries. The fourth puzzle is tough because each of these squares has weird ramped surfaces and they all contradict each other in a way that just feels frustrating, but it's fun. You just gotta kind of learn which way to tilt. The last puzzle is another set of ramps, but this time they go up, so you really need to keep your momentum up, even though they are pretty narrow. Alright, here we go. Here is some of the worst quests I've ever done ever. This guy needs you to get 5 balloons. They are all around the stage, so he can float away and do whatever the fuck. I don't know what he's doing. But he wants 5 balloons, and they're all around the stage. This stage is very vertical, and just fallouts constantly. You can do one of 2 things. You can just travel kind of by ramp and just go up and down the level over and over through all the little puzzle mechanics. The problem is that they are fucking hard, so even when you're not in the quest, or even have a balloon, you can just fall through like this very, very easily, all over the place. But when you're doing the quest, you do have a chance to also fly. You can go through one of these rings right next to the dude, and you get a chance to fly around the stage, which does make it easier. As I said, you don't want to really have to do the puzzle mechanics on the stage, jumping and fans and anything else that it has, because you can just die so easily. So you take the flying method, but the flying method also has tons of faults. There's stuff to hit everywhere. The second you hit something, you just fling yourself into the fucking nether. Or you hit something in a kind of weird way or fly weird, and you are locked into this weird flying pattern that you can't recover from. It can happen at any time while you're in the air, no matter how many balloons you've already collected. Even if you collected 4 and you're on your 5th one, you can just get sent flying down and lose all progress. It takes about an hour and 15 minutes for me to do this one quest, and honestly, you kind of spawn near it more often than not, so it's really frustrating when you do this quest just right in a row, over, and it's just, oh my god, man. But don't worry, I end up doing it, so we're on to the next quest, which still are sucky as shit. But don't worry, the shittiness is not over, because to unlock the shitty quest, you gotta do another shitty quest. This one means you have to be Woodball, catch yourself on fire, and climb the entire stage, lighting these little torches along the way. And all you have to do is touch them. That's not the problem. The problem is the stage itself working against you so hard. And I don't know if it was just because I was exhausted from that last quest, but man, I just had so many problems getting up these ramps and getting past the fans and the jumps just to light these torches. To help you understand the brevity of the situation, I'm going to show you this next quest in its entirety done once correctly, because you need to see what it takes to beat this quest. You catch yourself on fire, and you roll through this bowl, and you light these torches in very specific spots. Not all the torches are the same, and you're not really sure how to light the torch. And the bowl that you were jumping from to go to different ramps has water in the middle of it. That means you must avoid the water. You can light yourself on one of the torches you previously lit though, so that's pretty helpful. But now you've got to get lucky and find a way to get up these ramps. Once you do and light all of the torches, you must then light the furnace. And the furnace is pretty difficult to get to. You see, you need to light this torch right here, and then as it passes by, you must then catch yourself on fire with it and bounce to a different ramp. To do that, you've got to line yourself up perfectly and watch for it as it comes underneath this other ramp over here. Once it starts to go, you jump across, bounce off of it, and you're good. Now, I just want to be clear, this is not an easy thing to figure out. The quest says you need to light these torches and light the furnace. That's it. The water is a surprise, the ramps are pretty hard to get to, and just where's the furnace and how do you get to this area? Well, I mean, I don't know. As you see the torch going by, it's not readily apparent that that's what you need to do. Or maybe it is, I don't know, but it didn't feel like it. And learning the angles you need to take in the bowl where the water is so difficult, because so many times you're going to hit the water and douse yourself that it's like, dude, how the fuck do I get up to these other ramps? And it took 2 hours to do this. It was insane, and I hope no one ever has to go through something like this in their life, ever. Also, here's a tidbit about the camera in general in this fucking game.
You have no control. So it's just whatever the camera decides to do, you gotta play by ear. It's gonna be like, all right, this is where we're going, okay?
The last quest is only easy because I've already been through this stage so many fucking times, but we grab this balloon, drop down through this little area, and then pull your wings out so you can land next to the quest giver and turn it in. Woo! We actually get to move on to the next area, which has this very big long quest involving changing the water level to then use the wood ball to float across to another ramp, also catching yourself on fire and burning down these ice crystals around these, I guess, generators. You got to burn the ones that are closest to it, and then it pops up out of the water, and then you can move on. You just keep bringing the fire along with you until you eventually get to the last generator. We made it to 60%, so we can finally do the last quest, where we take these little baby monkeys and force them to work a shift so that the older monkeys can go to the wedding. Which is this serious. This is what we're doing. It's not really that hard of a quest. And then we talk to the foreman, and he's like, wow, I can't believe you guys got the little ones to do stuff, so now I can leave. It's like, weird. We can now finish the previous Monkey Kingdom, Zootopia, and to do that, we use the sticky ball to go up the sides of these pipes in a random kind of area in Zootopia itself. This is back where the cat was the leader of a theme park who is forcing people to stay because he thinks they're having fun. But you have to follow all of these pipes and ramps and little trapdoors everywhere, and it takes a long time, and this is not a quest. I'm serious. It's not a quest. It's just you got to go up these to find the cat himself. So it takes me a while, and there's tons of stuff to do, but this is what we got to do. We do end up reaching the puzzle section, finally, and it's actually a little puzzle itself to go around doing the puzzles. This first puzzle are narrow ramps connected to half pipes. You can take either one, but the easier one is definitely the narrow ramps because the half pipes kind of unexpectedly toss you in whatever direction you're going. The second puzzle is really difficult. It's a big half pipe with a couple holes in the middle of it, but also these arrows that kind of point you in the direction you want to go, I guess. But these arrows are raised on the tiles on the ground, which means that when you run into it, it slows your momentum, unless you're going just fast enough where it can actually launch you into these little smaller half pipes that circle the whole area. Then you follow these around until you finally get to the goal. Puzzle number 3 is a set of ramps that go down, that get more narrow as they go, and then they eventually go up, and they stay just as narrow. Number 4 is pretty fun. It's these downward ramps that slowly tilt to the left, and you have to really adjust because you start going super fast and you just can't control yourself. Or just do what I do here and screw the whole thing.
Yes, that worked!
We finally make it to the robot cat, and we find out that he is programmed to make sure that people have fun as much as they need, then they can leave. However, for some reason, his programming is off, and he thinks that people aren't having as much fun as they actually are. So they're all stuck there. He doesn't realize that they're actually not having any fun whatsoever. So it's really weird, and I don't know why this is how the story is. The first task is to light all of the lights on this little bowl, but you need to do it by hitting the targets, and the targets will change a random assortment of other targets to on or off, while the middle piece will always turn the left, right, straight up and straight down ones on and off together. So if you can get those kind of synced up, maybe, but I just do this for a little bit until I figure it out on accident. Once you finish this, you've got to use the punching glove to connect the conductors together so that power gets turned off or blows up or something. But you've got to punch them correctly, and at first I didn't know what to do, so you just got to punch them on the correct side. This stops the cat from running the park, and we're able to get the people who actually own the park to come in and let these people out who've been stuck here for weeks not having fun against their fucking will. And look at them, they're like, ah darn, his readouts weren't working, and it's like, I think you guys need to go to jail. I assume they need to go to jail. As we are about to leave, we finally learn the last teleport chant to the last area, thank God. Monkeytropolis has way less chances for fallouts, which is super nice. And the first quest we do is to help this police officer take the leaves off of these sprayers and return them, just like we did in the other quest with bananas, back to him where he has a vacuum to suck them up off of you. And that's it. It's actually really simple and easy to use the minimap to find out where these sprayers are. You get another picture taken, and this one's pretty laughably easy. You just go up the stairwell, turn around, and go across this thing, and there's the picture. We learn yet another chant, the tetherball chant, which allows us to grab something and bring it along with us. And we actually only use this a very few times, but here we go. The first one is when we have to hit these guys in masks by using the Invisiball, getting up to them and then bumping into them. They turn into like little balls that like crouch down, and then you can use the tetherball to drag them back to these prisons, which is, you know, whatever, that's fine. And it's not too bad after that. Invisiball, tether, bring them back to prison. And it's puzzle time. That's right, one of the best parts of the game, the puzzles. And this one's pretty easy. Our first puzzle is a downhill ramp that has narrow walkways. You just gotta slow yourself down and make sure you balance correctly or you'll fall out. This next puzzle has a set of pushers yet again trying to push you off the level. However, I realized that the pattern is not necessarily random. Whenever you tip the camera far enough to move it, the pushers move themselves. So if you can very lightly tap and set yourself up, you actually control when those things move. But I was never able to figure it out much more than that. I just noticed that the camera controlled them. This next puzzle is a bunch of hills that you have to keep momentum over and platforms that move around sporadically. It's pretty difficult. I time out a few times until I finally kind of get a pattern down. Man, the puzzles where the rooms move in a direction very fast while you're trying to go down especially is so difficult. This one takes me quite a few tries until I accidentally find a slight shortcut by falling off of one of the higher platforms down to the lower one. And I don't know, it's just difficult, man. The speed at which the level moves and how much it affects the ball, while it does make sense, it's fucking hard, man. So good luck if you ever have to do this because, I mean, it's hard as shit. The last puzzle is a set of hills and random narrow walkways that you must keep momentum over, but it's always a surprise what's over the next hill, so you kind of got to learn which way the ramps will lie. After this, we get into the best loading zone yet. You don't have to do anything and the game loads. What a novel concept. We find ourselves on a raceway where we learn the chant to make ourselves super fast, which means we're gonna have to go fast. First quest is simple. We just have to race these unicycle gang people. I don't really understand why there's a unicycle gang, but all we have to do is get past them and go through the raceway and beat them. It takes about 2 laps or so. I don't know. I just raced around this thing until it said I was done. The next quest is pretty weird. You've got to use sticky ball, and you have to go up and down these pipes from a building all the way outside, up, down, left, right, everywhere, and spin these specific pipes around. I'm not sure which way they're supposed to be facing sometimes. I just put them in a different direction. Then I find myself going down and up a couple other pipes, and then I find another one that I can rotate. After a while, I find enough of them where the monkey says, "You're done, you did a great job." So I'm happy with it. But it took a long time, and I only did it once. But man, it was like a 20-minute quest just going through these pipes. This guy, just like on the first island, needs us to return this balloon to someone in the area, which is the guy who gave us the quest for the pipes. He has moved, however. While I didn't show him, he's actually only in this opening. But now he's moved up to the roof of this place, which means you've got to get back on the sticky ball and go back up and down the fucking pipes. Well, I do find a little bit of a shortcut after rotating some more pipes. Didn't know I had to rotate them. I eventually find that I can fling myself off by going fast enough around the pipe to get to this one, and then I go up to the roof where it's much, much quicker, because otherwise I'd have to go all the way around. I don't know, man. These pipes are kind of confusing. This allows us into the next area where the leader of Monkeytropolis is, and we talk to him about his kid being married at another kingdom, and he goes, "Oh, great, who is he marrying?" And we say, "Oh, the rival area Kangri-La's princess." And he goes, "Haha, that's a funny joke." And we're like, "No, seriously." And he's like, "Whoa, everyone from Kangri-La is a monster, you know that, right? They even eat their victims from the inside out, like some weird horror story. One of the monkeys has to stop himself from puking. I don't fucking know. Anyway, so we think they're monsters, or they think they're monsters. We're not sure. We're hoping for a wedding. Well, he wants us to go check out Kangri-La and see if we can stop these monsters, because honestly, they must be fucking monsters. So the first thing we do is we find this cannon where we fire out these robots, and you have to aim just right and fire the robot into these pillars of blue light. Every time you do it, they do disappear, so you know when you've done it. But it is a little hard to aim. It's not a hard quest, it's just shooting some robots out of cannons. We finally meet some of the monkeys from Kangri-La, and obviously they're not monsters, they're just wearing masks, although for some reason some of the monkeys don't understand that. They pull their mask off and they say, "Hey, we're just monkeys, man, can you help us figure this out?" And to do that, we get the last chant in the game, the hoverball, which we'll see in a minute, but first, there's some puzzles to do. The first puzzle is a set of huge ramps that can sometimes unfurl out and become straight, which at the end here is what happens for me to get into the goal. It's a little difficult, but only took about 3 or 4 tries. This next puzzle is so difficult, and here's where moving the camera and affecting the platforms in the level comes into play. This time it's really important. Last time the pushers weren't too bad. If you can just line them up by moving the camera and then very slowly tilt the analog stick, you can get them to stand still. But I don't know how the fuck you were supposed to know that. It's a difficult concept to understand, but once you do it and you get yourself going, it's not too bad. The next puzzle has these platforms moving at kind of variable speeds and variable lengths across these little puzzle boards, so you just gotta figure out which one to go to get through the corners quickest. This next one is so hard too, dude. The stage is moving very fast, and now there is no way for you to move around safely because of all of these stone pillars just hanging out in the middle of the air. You have to figure out where the goal is, then get yourself to where the goal will fling by at you, and then you can hit it. But you've also got to watch out for the pillars, and the stage is moving. It's just insane, so you've got to really line yourself up, figure out where you need to go, and then put yourself there, and hope to God that no pillar hits you because it sends you flying no matter what. You can't stop it. The next one is also pretty difficult, but feels a little bit more fair once you start to learn where the slopes are, where the holes are, and how to get through each of the little narrow walkways. You should be able to do it. It's just the length. The length of this thing is pretty long, and having to concentrate this long is difficult, and you have to move fast or you'll get timed out. The next puzzle is a bunch of roller coaster ramps that are just crazy, and you have to really learn to hold yourself back while you're going down and then also memorize the direction you need to go, because this one's also a really, really tough one. You just move so fast and it's almost uncontrollable. This one's pretty fun. This one, several of the platforms move at the same time, and then the next set moves. So you've got to figure out which ones are going to move and which ones aren't, and then just kind of plant yourself on the ones that will be stationary. Once you figure that out, it's really not too hard of a puzzle. I got lucky on someone's unlucky puzzle for them when they were younger, so you can see that he says, "I can't believe you beat it. You're disrespectful. I'm leaving." The last puzzle is actually steps that lead down, which is really interesting. I like that this is a change in pace, but I do figure out I can just drop straight down and shortcut. We finally get to use the hover ball, which is extremely helpful. It allows you to hover over water and other surfaces. It can't be just open air. But the nice thing is that it allows you to be off the ground a little bit, and if you press X, you get a nice little boost in the air, which means that you can get to places either easier or places earlier than you would be able to. It just sucks that it's the last chant you learn, and it's by far, we're so far into the game it doesn't matter anymore. But this one's simple. You get up on these platforms out in the water and run into the robots flying around in circles that you put out here earlier. I guess they're not that great. So you blow them up and it's done. Next, we need to use hoverball and take these balloons over to the banana trees that are dying, and you need to do 8 of them. And once you take them over there, they're supposed to be used to water them. They're water balloons, although they are floating in the air, so I don't know how that's working. But for some reason, the hitboxes for these balloons on the trees are really, really shitty. I mean, walking around, hovering around, it's really hard to find where they want you to actually be for the balloon to work. And you can see here, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in front of it moving around. I can't get it to fucking work. And some of these trees are in very odd spots, and you just have to inch around until you finally get it. The next quest is actually pretty fun. You've got to launch yourself and fly into these speakers that are making very loud noises, and when you go inside of the speaker, you get shot back out where you can then fly again. You pretty much just have to do this over and over until you get all the speakers. It's just actually pretty well put together. I get to the next area where I can use the hover ball and the bigger ball in this first quest to go up, all the way up with this fan, and then use the bigger ball to become heavier and lighter. If you hold X, you get bigger, and if you let go, you get smaller, and of course you get lighter and heavier. So you've got to slowly go up and down this thing, hitting mirrors to make light shine all the way down to the bottom to activate this device for this dude. The next quest is okay, I guess. You've got to go around and hit these crabs from behind and make them go into their shells. Then you use the tether ball to bring them over and suck them up into this vacuum. It's just a little difficult because they're all on raised surfaces. My last quest in this area is to return yet another balloon to another person. However, this one's very, very close and very easy to do, and I'm very happy that it is. In this last area, I'm so close to finishing that I decide to just do the banana quest where I turn in some bananas, which are a lot, but I have a lot. So when I turn them in, I get 60% and I can just say, fuck it. Here's another example of a really difficult to do thing where you use the hoverball to go over these little pillars. The problem is there's no quest. It's just traversing the environment. This is how the whole game is. We meet with the king of Kangra-La now, and we tell him that his daughter is in love with the other rival nation's son, and of course we go through the same rigmarole. He's like, oh my god, they're monsters. So everyone thinks they're monsters. In fact, the conversation goes exactly the same. And afterwards he says, you can't convince me, but we know how to convince him. We do the last puzzle in the game. Here we go, Slipknot. Now, just from the screens up above, this puzzle looks pretty insane, and at first I think it's going to be, but I try a few times and realize there might be an easier way to do this, maybe a cool shortcut, and I find it, because honestly, doing this level the normal way is fucking hard. Now, the first shortcut gets me to near the end, but it's pretty hard to just keep yourself going slow enough to get into the goal. Now I find an even better one. I can ramp myself up off of one of these early ramps, stick myself in here, and just go right into the goal. Super easy. Oh, look at that. Finishing this puzzle activates a cutscene where the wall moves and they're both right next to each other, the kings of Monkeytropolis and Kangra-La. I don't know why they set the room up like this and why they forgot to just turn them around and look, but we do it for them. We take off their masks and show them that there's not any monsters. They're just being really fucking weird, and I don't know how this is a kid's game, but we did it. We showed them that they aren't monsters and their kids can get married fine. Now, the game doesn't tell you this, but before we finish, we actually have to do a set of quests that it never tells you have to do, although we do it a few times. Whenever I've delivered a balloon to someone, a single balloon to a person who has moved positions, that is what we're supposed to do. In each level, there are like one or maybe two of these people there to deliver balloons to. Most of them are inviting them to the wedding. Sometimes it's just, here's a balloon. But we do this for every level, and I'm only missing 2. So I do those last 2 balloons, and honestly, I have to go to the shitty place, which isn't too bad. It's much easier because I have the hoverball. Then we go back to Zootopia, and this one's really simple. Using the hoverball makes it easy. I give this balloon to this lady, and we're finally able to go back to Original Island, where we go back to where the king is, and use the sticky ball to climb up the tree in a place you don't really know you're supposed to go, to another quest, and this quest only activates when all of the requirements are met. 60% everywhere, and all of the balloon quests done. I don't know why they designed it like this and then didn't tell you. It really shows that maybe this wasn't supposed to be an adventure game. However, you just have to memorize for this last quest some patterns that this guy gives you. You have to jump on these 4 colored squares, and they're very much like the memory games you've probably played in different areas of your life. I don't know. I used to play it in a pizza place called Little Caesars, where you could win breadsticks if you got enough of these in a row. And this is it, everyone. That was the last quest, memorizing those bells. That's it. The game is done. We finally got to the end. We helped them have their wedding, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's happy. God, thank you. This game gets a 6 out of 10 because I think it's still a cool idea. It's not a terrible game. The puzzles are fun. Some of the mechanics are cool. The cool special ball things are really neat. It's the execution. Having an adventure game where you traverse the entire world in a ball and everything about the traveling in the ball just sucks, like momentum and rolling off of things and the fact that you fall out and just how things work and the difficulty spike when you go to Moonhaven and you can fall out everywhere, and it's a cool game, but it's very frustrating. And for their first adventure game, especially in this series, there's very little good direction. You just don't know where to go. You're never really given a good idea. You just have to go and search, which, while it isn't necessarily bad, it doesn't help that you already have trouble moving around in the world. So this game is finally done. 6 out of 10. That's it. I tried putting together a tier list of the last several games I did because I'd like to make a tier list for every single game on the PS2, but I wasn't able to do it, so this game would get a C if I could make it on the tier list. So there we go. Now let's move on to the guessing game. Alright, what did Stable Diffusion make of the next game I'm going to play? What do you think it is? It shouldn't be too hard. I don't know. But we'll see what people can guess. If you didn't notice, partway through this, my wife left because she has a lot of stuff going on, and she's like, well, I really can't join and play these games. So I played it by myself for a little bit. Then also you see the aspect ratio changed because I got a RetroTink 5X. From now on, you're going to see the RetroTink 5X for everything, which means that the quality should have been bumped up a little bit. Plus, the next game I also get component cables, which I can then use, and it's even nicer. So everything's just going to look nicer, and I'm super excited about it. Also, you can see how many deaths I have. I just guessed how many deaths I had. In the end, I think I picked 250 just in case, and that's what's going to be from now on. I'm going to have a lifetime amount of deaths, and we're going to record every time I die, or die with quotes. In this game, falling out, I was counting as deaths because technically it does kick you out of the quest, so that's kind of cool. We'll see where that goes. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and also thank you to the 4 patrons I have right now. One of the games coming up is one of the games that one of the patrons picked. I'll tell you when it is, but it's not the next one. So come back and watch the next video, and then the patron video after that. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time.